Hello, good afternoon, and welcome. So today we are going to be finishing out The Path of Alchemy, Energetic Healing, and the World of Natural Magic by Mark Stavish. And we're going into chapter 10 to the end today. And chapter 10 is entitled Alchemical Symbolism and the Tarot. And our chapter overview is 1, the tarot as hermetic synthesis, 2, alchemical interpretation of the major arcana, and 3, symbolism, dreams, and inner awakening. All right. Alchemy has been linked to Kabbalah since time immemorial. In addition to Hermetic references, several Jewish alchemical texts exist, further strengthening this connection. The most famous of these is a treatise on mineral alchemy, the Aish Mesereth, which is AESCHMEZAREPH, or the purifying fire. That way. Good to see you. Welcome back, dude. Take 2. However, for many, the link between Kabbalah and alchemy solidified in the 14th century when Nicholas Flamel went to Spain in search of a Kabbalistic rabbi to help him decode the strange engravings in the alchemical text that had dominated every waking hour of his and Perenel's life for 22 years. The hieroglyphs in the Book of Abraham, the Jew. And it says, see Appendix C for more about Flamel, which I think we're going to read today. Later, this information would be transferred to the paths of the Tree of Life, thereby offering us insight into deciphering alchemical practices and general information about the principal alchemical paths known as the wet way and the dry way. However, it is only recently that tarot cards have been assimilated into Kabbalah, and as such, while offering us some alchemical information, the information is limited. For students with an affinity for the tarot, the images found in alchemical plates and texts will be a goldmine of symbolic opportunity. To help prepare you for working with these images in an alchemical fashion, rather than strictly Wiccan, Kabbalistic, or as a fortune-telling device, we will briefly examine the tarot cards and interpret them according to the principles of physical and transcendental alchemy. In working with images that most students are already familiar with, we hope that their consciousness will be seated with the process that is used in alchemical plates and engravings. All right, so the first one, the Fool. And this is the classic Rider-Waite tarot deck right here. The Fool. This card represents the aspiring alchemist early in his or her journey, filled with visions of what is possible and completely ignorant of the reality of the inner and outer work that awaits. And then this is a picture of the Fool in Tarot of Dreams. All right. Next is the Magus, the Magician. Oh, son of a gun. The Magician, or the Magus. This card is the accomplished alchemist, creator of the Philosopher's Stone, master of the elements. It is what we aspire to become. Isn't it cool how in the Tarot of Dreams we have alchemical and the letters of the Jewish alphabet up in the corner? It's so cool. Yeah, planets, ruling planets, and all that jazz. The Priestess, or the High Priestess. This card reveals the secrets of nature to us through a study and application of the divine laws manifesting in our perceptions of the visible and invisible worlds. The veil of ignorance is pulled back, and nature stands revealed in the Empress. The Priestess is linked to the prima materia, or first matter of the wise, and needs to be studied in this light. The prima materia is everywhere and can be had cheaply if we just know where to look and how to harness it. The lunar forces influencing our world are a microscopic reflection of the great principles demonstrated by this trump card. Oh, wrong one. Boop. Oh, the High Priestess in the Lightworkers Tarot, which I use most often. It's down here. I'm not going to take the time to pull those ones out, but when she has her eyes closed, it's like she has a tattoo of eyes on the outside. It's like she can see even with her eyes closed, maybe even especially with her eyes closed. All right, the Empress. The Empress is the queen of nature in her full glory. This represents the invisible energies operating in the material body and life of the alchemist. As generator of forms and substance, she is the celestial waters as well, or the queen of heaven, hidden in the priestess. Oh, hey. Has this been... Whoa. You can... Cosmic Buddha, hey, welcome in. Here we go. And then we'll, this one too, from the Tarot of Dreams. All that green and abundance. Yeah, and then the Lightworkers Tarot, she's like got a whole, she's got a belly that's pregnant, and it's like it's a depiction of the planet Earth in her belly. It's really cool. Okay. The Emperor. The Emperor is Aries, action, the first phase of the work. He is often associated with sulfur, the self-realizing power within everything. This is the essential vital energy needed to initiate, sustain, and complete the great work. Bum, bum, bum. Also, all the numbers of these major arcana, they relate to numerology and what those numbers vibrate with. It's amazing how everything connects. I'm going to fix my hat over this way and fix my hair. Take a sip and continue to the Hierophant, which is my card, Taurus. And we're actually in Aries season, and that was the last card, the Emperor. Which I've heard it pronounced both ways, Hierophant and Hierophant. Okay. And this one, it says the Pope. The Pope, often called the Hierophant or teacher of the mysteries. The Pope is a form of Thoth. He is also the great animating force in life, as is Mercury to the plant, mineral, or animal realms. The self-realizing power of self are drawn to it, as sulfur is to Mercury, drawing the latent energies of sulfur or consciousness into fruition and expression through the power of motion and activity. Yeah, I'm wearing the Magician today. I hear you. We are the Magician. It's so faded, but it still is the Magician. And then this is the Hierophant or the Pope. This one's Faith in the Tarot of Dreams. The Lovers. This card represents the two great paths of alchemy, the wet way and the dry way. The angel is the inner alchemist, the holy guardian angel, who through intuition and dreams helps aspiring alchemists make their choices and find their way. One way is slow and sure, the other is fast and dangerous. And this is the Lovers, the Tarot of Dreams. Also, this card used to be known as the Choice or Choices. And this one that resonates to 6 also resonates with the Devil, which is 15 in tarot, which then resonates to 6 in numerology. So you can kind of see the pull between the numbers, right? It's really cool. Okay, so the Chariot. The Chariot represents the oven of the alchemist and its need to be constantly watched, directed, and controlled through skillful operations of the head, heart, and hands. It's like Spirit Chariot in this one. Cancer. All right. Oh, this one is saying that happens too. Okay, sometimes in tarot, justice and strength are reversed. So let's get to this one. They're saying justice is next, but in most decks that I've approached, strength comes next. But there have been a few decks that I have and that I've used before that don't. But this one says justice next. Okay, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. The possible outcomes of every act must be understood to avoid error, accident, and disaster. The habits of mind, emotions, and action, or karma, developed along the way are the sources of our balanced approach and keep us from being sidetracked. And then let me find that one in here because in the Tarot of Dreams, strength comes next as well. But here's justice in the Tarot of Dreams. Libra, the scales. Life path 6 for you. Oh my gosh, cool. That's awesome. That heart space love energy. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Cosmic Buddha. That is so kind. Oh my gosh, I totally appreciate you. Thank you. All right, so then we have the Hermit. Hey, where is the Hermit? Did I not pull him out? Justice. Do I just have it in the wrong order over here? I know I pulled it out. I saw it. Oh, I put it up here on accident when I was looking. Okay, yeah, I that's right. Here we go. Okay, so the Hermit. It's because I pulled that other card out of order. Here we go. The son of Hermes is adept who is in but not of the world. Boom. He is seen but hidden from the eyes of the profane, or those who would seek to abuse the powers of nature. The hermit shuts himself off from the world, led by his inner light, relying on the staff of experience to create new and more perfect forms so that what is seeking expression in material life may be an improvement over what it replaces. Boom. It's like Dark Night of the Souls, eh? So I'll put strength over here, up here. And then this is the Hermit in the Tarot of Dreams. I love it. It's like a timepiece up there on the top of his staff. Okay. The Wheel of Fortune. Yeah. Oh my gosh. The Sphinx. Okay. The Wheel of Fortune. The cycles of life are the source of misery and happiness in life. Through understanding and using them, the alchemist is able to stand outside the domain of fate and be master of life. Freedom from the wheel is achieved by following the most propitious time for every act. In doing so, astrology is the friend and aid of the alchemist. Yeah. It's always spinning in our favor. It's cool. Jupiter. All right. Strength. Sometimes also the 8th card in tarot. The most sublime of all cards. This synthesizes alchemy, astrology, and Kabbalah through the tarot. The woman, Sophia, who's wisdom, directs the energies of instincts or the lion. In the doing so, commands the most and in doing so, commands the most difficult, powerful, and dangerous aspects of the work, the blind forces of matter and the subconscious. By using what energy we have available to us wisely, we gain more, and what once could destroy us now willingly serves and assists us in our undertakings. Boom. Strength. Wow. the triangle, the star, the chain is like the ring of fire. Cool. The Hanged Man. This is the sign of sulfur, or self-realizing energies brought to fruition. In this, however, the world uh, in this, however, the world as it was known is turned upside down. The bonds of material life must be loosened, and in some instances lost, so that the energies may flow from the feet to the head, and the sublime work realized. Wow, they sort of look like lightsabers. The 11 walking through the doors. Wow, all the clockwork. Dude, I love tarot cards. I love symbolism. All right. Death. Constant change is constant renewal, and death is the loosening of energies of matter for release into spirit and eventual rebirth. The dead gives up its spirit, just as the corpse gives up the consciousness of friend, stranger, and foe alike. If the spirit, however, has no new form to enter into, or the old one is not resurrected, then its energies are lost and the work is a failure and must be restarted. This card should be studied in relation to the Hanged Man and the Last Judgment. Wow, the snake, a golden snake too. I always think of butterflies for this card as well. The chrysalis, the becoming. All right, temperance. Constant flux and reflux of the active and passive forces is how the universe expresses itself in and through us. We must understand the cycles within ourselves and balance them if we are to become the magus. This constant flux allows for spiritual and physical renewal and regeneration. The fluids and their vases are the lunar and solar energies that are manipulated through the two alchemical paths, the dry way, or the foot on land, and the wet way, or the foot on the water. Both belong to the adept once the other has been mastered, as the philosopher's stone belongs to both paths and is one. She's mixing the waters of life in the Two of Cups, right? Or in two cups. It's like a reflecting mirror of sorts. Wow, the heart. It's like a cosmic heart. I know it's not, but it's not really a heart, but the way that this is like right here, or how do I do it backwards? Right here and then over here. It's like a big old heart. I never realized that before. Oh, Scheisse. Here we go. Death, or the devil, rather. Solve et coagula is a term you will hear often in alchemical work. And as was pointed out in Chapter 2, it is the key to all occult work. Students of tarot see these words emblazoned on the arms of the devil in the Oswald Wirth deck and other tarot decks derived from Kabbalah and alchemy. It is good to write this down on a card and place it where you can easily see it when you are doing your alchemical work. Just as the muscles of the human body grow stronger through the process of breaking down and building up, so do the powers of alchemical products grow more potent through an identical cycle of activity. This process is so fundamental to alchemy and the plant experiments outlined here in particular, that a considerable amount of time should be spent meditating on this phrase. A copy of the 15th trump of the tarot can be used to assist in meditation, insofar as the typical descriptions given are ignored, and students seek to use it as a means of strictly alchemical insight into the hidden workings of nature's invisible forces. Nothing is wasted, or evil in the true sense, and matter is put to the use of spirit. Wow, that's right. Esoteric alchemistic, welcome in, dude. My arms are getting all tired, but we're getting close. Or my arm from holding the cards up. Okay, the Tower. This card is the first disaster, the wrong intention for undertaking the work, inappropriate attention to details, haste, pride, and materialism corrupting the work. Wow, look at that tower. Wow. I thought it had, I thought that those were like chemical symbols that were on the domes there, but they're just really intricate, cool designs. The Star. This represents the influences of the astral energies through the planetary hours, the influences of the zodiac on alchemical work, the power of seasons, and the ever-present reality of the magnetic powers of nature or natural magic. Yeah, it's a healing card, right? It's also like the Rise. Aquarius, yeah. The Water Bearer. Okay, the Moon. This is the symbol of the white stone and the wet way. And that's all it says about that. But dang, there's so much about this. The wolf, the dog, our natures, the towers. Hey, where is it in this one? Here it is, the moon. Wow. DN, welcome in. Good to see you. All right. Next, we have the sun. This is the symbolism of the red stone and the dry way. That's all it says. Nice. Judgment. This represents discretion, reasoning, and the power of traditions brought forward into the modern world. Boom. Mercury. Wow, so beautiful. And then the last card, the World. The world or the universe. This is the accomplishment of the great work, the stone made and multiplied. The ideals of Ch.10 are manifest on earth, and the hermit's journey is done. You can see on the Tarot of Dreams, how the Fool on the first card is the center of this card. Wow, and then we've got the 4 elements. I love it. And then it says again here, the Fool. And I'll hold it up again. This time I'll start with the Tarot of Dreams. Whoso begins the journey and completes it. The seeker who began in ignorance has acquired wisdom. This is the wise man and the fool in one. The alchemist, at the beginning of the journey of the path of return, completes it full of wisdom and grace. He is the Alpha and the Omega. Ooh. And then I'll show you again this Fool, the classic. Juicy. Cool. You know, I'm going to read real quick to you from the Tarot of Dreams in this book set here. It's got a really awesome explanation of the tarot in the major arcana and what they mean. Okay. So, introduction to the major arcana. Okay. What follows is one possible version of the voyage of the Fool. The Fool is our protagonist. With complete faith in himself and the world around him, he clothes himself in satin and prepares to embark on his journey. He is the very picture of foolish optimism. He is us. In The Magician and the Priestess, the fool meets his inner guides. The magician represents that part of him that looks out for opportunities to learn and to navigate the world to his advantage. The priestess is his intuitive sense, that inner voice which we must quiet ourselves to hear. Without these two, the fool would be incapable of proceeding on the voyage. The empress and the emperor are the fool's archetypal parents. While the magician and the priestess tell the fool about himself and his abilities, the empress and emperor teach him about the world and ways of perceiving it. The empress shows the fool how the world can be seen as a never-ending bounty of life and love. The emperor shows him the world as a blank slate, ready to have order laid upon it. Faith, called the Pope or the Hierophant in other texts, and the lovers demonstrate different ways of relating. In faith, the fool begins developing a sense of meaning, which enables him to place his own and others' actions into context. In the lovers, he begins learning to relate to others on a one-to-one basis. The chariot shows the fool in his adolescence, confident in his power as he ventures forth into the world. In the next 6 cards, the fool encounters and learns from various challenges that life throws at him. In strength, the fool begins to be aware of an inner reserve of strength and self-preservation, which he can draw upon in times of need. In later cards, he'll encounter the darker sides of his energy. In The Hermit, the fool finds that this childish need for companionship and approval gives way to a need for solitude, the time and space required for inner development rather than the outer adventuring shown in the chariot. The wheel gives our fool a vision of the world as a machine and himself as a small cog in the wheel. Justice reminds him that in the face of the determinism revealed by the wheel, there must be absolutes of right and wrong if life is to have meaning. Times turn rough for the fool in the next 2 cards. In The Hanging Man, the fool encounters delays, obstructions, and the necessity for patience and self-sacrifice. In Death, the sacrifice increases as the fool finds himself forced to surrender old self-images and to adapt to changing circumstances. In his troubled state, Temperance appears like an angel, showing the fool how to accomplish the necessary adaptation. In the next 2 cards, it's out of the frying pan and into the fire. In The Devil, the fool must face his shadow self, a greedy and insatiable taskmaster, who will imprison the fool in his desires if allowed to. In The Tower, the recognition and acknowledgement of this terrible truth about himself brings about a catastrophic destruction of the illusions he has so carefully built up in the previous cards. In the fool's darkest hour, the star appears, soothing his pain and fear with the cooling waters of grace and hope. The moon shows a landscape that is disturbing and frightening, but which ultimately embodies the creative potential the fool will need in order to become self-aware. In the sun, that new self-awareness shines forth. In Judgment, the fool uses this self-awareness to open his eyes to a new, brilliant perception of the universe he inhabits. Finally, in The World, the fool has come full circle. He is now fully aware of how naive he was at the start of his voyage, yet how necessary that naivete had been in order to start him on his way. He now acknowledges his place in the universe, his existence as a part of a larger pattern. Soon he will be ready to embark on another voyage, and the sequence will begin anew. And that is the hero's journey, and that is the great work. Isn't that good? I love that. I love that in this book. All right, back to the Path of Alchemy. Let me get these cards put back away, and we'll do it to it. Oh, I put it on the wrong way. Okay, and then Also, when I had my other cards, the rest of this deck laying out, the Three of Swords was up, which is like the heart of the card of like heartbreak, and like you have three swords stabbing into your heart. And then I was like, dude, I don't want that to be staring at me the whole time. So I switched it, and the card that came up was Victory. Ha! Dude, I love it. Yeah. From heartbreak to victory. That's what we do. Okay. Okay, let's put you guys back in your home. Okay, and I'll flip this guy again. Okay, the Path of Alchemy. Where are we at? Man, that was cool. A Fool's Journey. That's right. So, symbolism, the language of the birds. Moroccan mint today. So good. Oh my gosh, it was so sunny and hot the past like 2 days. And then I woke up and my apartment was freezing. I did put the heat on. So it feels good to be drinking some hot tea. So the language of the birds. Symbols are the gateway to the psychic realms. The currency we pay to enter these realms is consistency. Symbols are often called the language of the soul. And like any language of Earth, symbols reflect a specific culture, history, and collective experience of the path they communicate. If you wish to be fluent in the use of symbols, you must treat them as you would any language or specialized area of study. And that means a consistent use of their meanings, colors, shapes, and forms. The great strength of Oriental iconography lies in its mathematical proportions and its use of color. Through a regular and repeated use of specific shapes, sizes, and colors, artists of different traditions pass on from generation to generation a symbolic language that connects them across the centuries. The same is true in any esoteric system, and no less so in alchemy. In alchemy, language became known as the language of the birds, or the green language. The symbolism is clear when we remember that the bird, or more specifically the dove, is the symbol of the Holy Spirit, the messenger of God, our intuition, and that green is the color of rebirth and vitality, one of the colors of the alchemist. Yeah, that heart space energy, green and pink. The language's artistic high point was during the construction of the great Gothic cathedrals across Europe. It is not surprising that many of these cathedrals were built upon pre-Christian, specifically Druidic, sites, as well as what dowsers call ley lines, or magnetically sensitive areas of the earth. In Points of Cosmic Energy, Blanche Mers details these various connecting points between the invisible and visible on the Earth's surface and demonstrates how current research has been able to identify the unique energetic qualities of them and their surrounding water supplies. Points of Cosmic Energy. I want to get that. I'm going to write that up in here. Or I can, yeah, dragon lines. Points of Cosmic Energy. I wonder if I can get that. I'm going to pull up. Let's see what Amazon has. Points of Cosmic Energy. Boom. Oh my gosh, it's expensive, of course, but that's okay. Oh my gosh. Cool. Let's put you in my cart. Add to cart. Okay, back to YouTube. In Cathedral of the Black Madonna, Jean Markale, Markale, Jean Markle, or Markale, A specialist in Celtic studies and author of over 40 books, details the relationship between the early Druid priesthood of ancient France and the many architectural and spiritual mysteries surrounding Chartres, 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 one of the greatest cathedrals of the High Middle Ages. We should look that up and see what it looks like. Chartres. However, it is the enigmatic alchemical author, Fulcanelli, that unites all of this information in a meaningful and practical manner for the aspiring alchemist. Okay, wait. I want to pull up Chartres. Let's see if there's a picture of it. Boop, boop, boo. Come on. Here we go. Chartres Cathedral. Wow. Let's get a picture up. Images. Oh my goodness. Whoa. Okay, so oh my goodness. There's so many pictures though. Let's see. Wow, I want to show the inside. Okay. Open image in new tab. Let's take a look at that. Okay. Present. Share screen. It's this one, right? It's this one. Share. Whoa, right? That's cool. Yeah. Control these points and you will gain immense amounts of power. Pa Joe, welcome in. Good to see you. Okay, Okay, so stop sharing. I'm going to close that out. And then I want to pull up a picture of the outside of it. Wow, it's just massive. That's kind of, let's see here. Open image in new tab. Hopefully it's that massive in this. Balls, it's kind of tiny on there. That's a really good picture though. I bet this is what inspired Harry Potter. See if I can't find another one like that, but bigger. Whoa. Is it a copper roof? Is that why it's green like that? Let's open this one. Even though this one's not quite as good as the other one, this is really good. Okay, so open image in new tab. Oh, but it's much bigger. Okay. Here we go. Present. Share screen. Boom. Share. Wow. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh, it's like the flower almost, right? Whoa. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Whoa, what a building. Man, that is cool. Okay, so one of the greatest cathedrals of the High Middle Ages. Wow. However, it is the enigmatic alchemical author Fulcanelli that unites all of this information in a meaningful and practical manner for the aspiring alchemist. Nothing is absolutely known about Fulcanelli. He is said to have been, or is, a French alchemist who wrote 2 books published in the early 20th century. Has been or is. Maybe he's still alive, right? Could be. The mystery of the cathedrals and the dwellings of the philosophers. These 2 books published in the early. Okay, so Both books discuss alchemical symbolism as it appears in architectural representations across France. Much speculation has grown up around Fulcanelli, including suggesting that he had completed the great work and lived in an alchemical retreat in Spain. Other suggestions are less dramatic, such as saying that Fulcanelli is the nom de plume for an author or group of authors seeking to preserve alchemical knowledge. Even his name, Fulcanelli, can be seen as a verbal symbol or play on words combining Vulcan, the ancient god of the forge and fire, and El, a Hebrew word for God, thereby giving us the meaning, the forge of God. Regardless, the tradition of authors of alchemical works desiring anonymity is well established, and Fulcanelli follows in this tradition. Of his two books, The Mystery of the Cathedrals is the most impressive and useful to the beginning student of alchemical symbolism. Wow, this is just full of great info. Alchemical symbolism and dreams often use a play on words, in which sounds like is the meaning rather than looks like. For example, in English, the third letter of the alphabet, a large body of salt water, and the act of vision all sound alike: see, and see. According to Fulcanelli, this ability to play with words creates a phonetic Kabbalah, or symbolic language that could be found in art, song, poetry, dreams, and mystical experience. This kind of transposition of sounds, meaning, and images is important when we deal with psychic phenomena, as the astral world is synthetic. Images and sounds are our chief forms of obtaining information in the material world. I just got that ringing in my ears. Juicy. Tinnitus. It went away. It was really faint. So what was I saying? I was saying that kind of transposition of sounds, meaning, and images is important when we deal with psychic phenomena, as the astral world is synthetic. Images and sounds are our chief forms of obtaining information in the material world. In the psychic, additional methods come into play that can be chaotic and confusing by mundane standards. This is why it is impossible to interpret dreams if they are taken literally. The very nature of a dream is to be non-literal. Other forms of psychic communication are more direct. However, time, patience, and experience are needed to be able to recognize and use them reliably. I had a really good dream last night. It was really good. I also had a really crazy dream last week, but I've been having some really good ones. Lucid dreaming. Gateway to the astral. The only way to become an adept of any tradition is to become completely fluent in the symbolism of that tradition. The only way to become fluent in the symbolism of a tradition is to work with it. Just as we must practice our drills and conversation skills when learning a foreign language, the same applies to symbols. Meditation and rituals are working aspects of symbolism. Surrounding ourselves with esoteric art, making drawings, or copying and illuminating images in our notebooks is the process of imbibing or immersing ourselves in a symbolic environment. Dreams and visions are the act of conversation and dialogue. It is here that we must learn to observe, listen, and remember so that we can interpret our dreams in a manner practical to our spiritual practice. When interpreting dreams, 4 things are important. 1, consistent symbolism. 2, writing the dreams down. 3, regular practice. And 4, using planetary hours to aid interpretation. Ooh, I should do that too. Yeah, they are, Pajo. Many of them are. And there have been many buildings that were built on those ley lines before the ones that are standing there now. And they were adapted by different rulers of the time, different religions of the time. It's interesting. Consistent symbolism. Consistent symbolism means giving the same meaning to a symbol, color, or sound and keeping it within its tradition, not seeking meaning elsewhere. This is difficult for many who seek to be eclectic and multicultural in their path. While it is fine to be broad-minded and tolerant on the intellectual level, at some point you have to make a decision about what you are going to do and how you are going to do it. This applies to the material domain as much as the psychic and the spiritual. If you choose to speak to someone using French vocabulary and Chinese grammar with German conjugation thrown in, don't be surprised when they don't understand you. The same applies to our subconscious when it acts as the conduit between our mundane consciousness and our superconsciousness. The superconscious is synthetic. It does not rationalize. The more you fill it with, the more it will attempt to harmonize and make sense of the various disparate parts. If this is done as part of a specific system, then progress is made. If it is done haphazardly, then confusion results. Our ability to understand our dreams and the symbols that contain is a direct reflection of our personal integration. Consistency may be difficult and boring at times, but it is the key to progress in this area. Keep a notebook in which you write down symbols and their meanings. Use it as your personal dream dictionary. By doing this, you train your subconscious to use specific symbols in a specific manner so that they are meaningful to you. Dude, that's cool. Hey, have a good one. We'll see you soon, I hope. To start the process, you can use some symbolic seed material. This includes A Dictionary of Symbolism by J.E. Serlo, The Mystery of the Cathedrals by Fulcanelli, translated by Mary Swarter. The American edition is also known under the title Fulcanelli, Master Alchemist. The Alchemical Mandala by Adam McLean, Goodwin's Kabbalistic Encyclopedia by David Godwin, or Godwin, so it's Godwin's. Godwin's Kabbalistic Encyclopedia by David Godwin. The Tarot of the Magicians by Oswald Wirth. The Golden Game, Alchemical Engravings of the 17th Century by Stanislas Klasowski de Rola. Writing them down. If it is important enough to dream, it is important enough to write down. The act of writing down a dream, even a fragment, is a message to the subconscious that this information is important and to keep it coming. By writing down our dreams, we fix the volatility is bringing us. Regular practice. Dreams can be stimulated through a variety of practices that fall under the broad heading of dream yoga, or union through dreams. This union is with none other than our own inner self. Through repeated practice, we can come to communicate directly with this aspect of ourself, transcending even dreams and symbols in direct language and experience. Dream practices can be very simple and direct to be effective. The following method will assist in jumpstarting your dreaming memory and even dream lucidly. Astral projection may also occur as a result of this practice. The nice thing about dream practices is that we must sleep, so spending a few minutes as we lie in bed directing our consciousness to assist us in our work is about as passive a practice as there is on the path to enlightenment. Dream practice 1. As you lie in bed, focus your attention on your throat, behind the Adam's apple, where the thyroid gland is. If you have an Adam's apple. Imagine a sphere of brilliant orange or red-orange light. This can be small, but it radiates a large sphere of influence in its aura. This sphere can extend from just above your sternum to below the bridge of your nose if you want to imagine it. Otherwise, simply stay with the brilliant sphere of light. 2. Verbally, silently, or in a whisper, recite the following affirmation. Quote, "Tonight I will dream, and I will remember my dreams." End quote. This affirmation can be made more specific with experience to include the following, quote, "Tonight I will dream, and I will become aware that I am dreaming," end quote. Or it can be used to continue with a dream that left off from a previous night. Quote, "Tonight I will dream, and my dream will continue from this point," and you imagine the end of the dream you wish to use as a pickup point, end quote. You may repeat this 3 or 7 times with confidence that you will dream. 3. Write down any dream experiences you have during the night. The process can be more complex and developed as dream practices begin to involve lucid dreaming, astral projection, and heightened states of consciousness. However, they all rely on this basic technique as their foundation. Planetary hour. One of the most confusing aspects of dream interpretation occurs when dreams appear to be fragments of other dreams, and we seek to link them together, but don't know how. We may have a dream on Monday, another on Tuesday, and a third on Friday. We write them down and line them up like chapters in a book. But instead of making any sense, it looks like we pulled 3 chapters at random from a book on history, a romance novel, and a physics textbook. We convince ourselves is hopeless and that we will never understand our dreams, and we go back to forgetting them. However, just as planetary energies affect our alchemical and meditative work, they also affect our dream work. If we took those 3 chapters and, instead of lining them up, put them back in the proper books in which they belong, we could begin to make sense of their messages. For this reason, when you write down your dreams, keep the planetary day and night in mind. Saturday at sunrise until Sunday at sunrise is ruled by Saturn. Therefore, all dreams on a Saturday night or early Sunday morning before sunrise are influenced by Saturn. Dreams in the morning or at or after sunrise will be influenced by the new planetary energies. In summertime, in areas where daylight savings time is used, the sun may rise at 5 a.m. If you sleep until 7 a.m. and know that your dream occurred just before waking, it is important to analyze it in relation to the new energies. However, many people dream sometime between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., thereby eliminating this problem. Once you record a dream, make sure that you connect your dreams according to the planetary days. A dream on Saturday night should be followed by any dream that may occur on each succeeding Saturday. The same applies for each of the remaining days of the week. These dreams should be read as chapters in your personal planetary dream book. That was one sentence. So these dreams should be read as chapters, then in your personal planetary dream book. They should also be reviewed prior to sleep to stimulate your subconscious with the leaving off point of the last dream as the starting point of the next dream in the series. I love that. As an example of an alchemical dream interpretation, the following dream was experienced by a practitioner of alchemy while performing a specific operation. The dream occurred on a Sunday night in April, during a waxing moon with Mercury retrograde. The weather was very damp and chilly. Dream, quote, "I am in the basement of my house, distilling a product. It is not clear if it is red wine or another tincture, but the color is dark and rich. The basement is different from normal, in that it is all dirt. Brown predominates, and the space is completely empty except for a small distillation setup before me and the stairs behind me. They are not directly behind me, but instead are at an angle and go up and to my back facing left. To my front facing left is a bare light bulb on a cord. I reach for the light bulb with some hesitation, as something doesn't feel right. I realize that some force or energy is present with me. I turn and run up the stairs toward the exit. Just as the door is about to close, I force it open, and in doing so, experience a sphere of energy around me, of tremendous power. I stop and feel proud of my achievement, and almost showed you attitude, then exit, end quote. Interpretation. Interpreting a dream is easy once we identify the key symbols and link them together, like words in a sentence or ideas in a story. Here are the key symbols, as identified by the dreamer in this dream. Basement of my house. House is Beth in Hebrew, and also the moon. The basement is the supporting structure or foundation, Yesod. This is the dreamer's subconscious. Distilling a product whose color is dark and rich. A work of purification has reached a critical or possibly end stage. And then it says, all dirt, brown predominates. The place of work is the material world. This dream conveys a very concrete lesson. And it's empty except for a small distillation set up before me. The lesson is simple and the teaching direct. There is nothing to distract the dreamer's attention. Then we have stairs are behind me at an angle and go up to my back facing left. The dreamer is isolated. Leaving is not simple. Left is the direction of mercy or divine grace. It could also be a symbolic direction in the language of the birds, that is, left, as in the past tense of to leave. And then to my front facing left is a bare light bulb on a cord. Light, similar to the tarot card of the hermit when the dreamer reaches for it. The outer light is touched and left behind, and the inner light must be relied upon when the force of the dream is awakened. And then experience a sphere of energy around me of tremendous power. The energy aroused is absorbed or assimilated in some fashion, but is more indirect than direct. And then it says, I stop to feel proud of my achievement. And then it says, from fear to pride in a split second, human folly. Wow. Dream summary. The dreamer is purifying a product that relates to his inner self, connection to the root of his being. Progress requires greater isolation and inward presence, but also a connection to the concrete and material. The work awakens great energy and potential, but also, with it, great fear of the very thing that is sought. The mind must cease to be afraid of the energies that give it life. Once aroused, these energies cannot be escaped, but must be absorbed and assimilated. The absurdity of the dreamer's ego is that it from fear of its own creation to pride over vanquishing it inside of an instant. This hints at the dangers of human activities in the esoteric realms. The greatest threat to all spiritual work is pride. The test must be repeated. Much of the symbolism hints at the tarot card for the hermit, Yod, Virgo, Mercury, Earth, ascent, light, before and above or at the level of the head, Mercury retrograde. Wow. That's cool. Wow, Podjo. I gave a tarot reading on Sunday, and she was talking about sleeping in the light of the moon, and that it was like difficult for her to fall asleep. But whenever she would just like get into this one area where the moon would shine right in, that she would just easily fall asleep. Sort of the opposite of what you're saying. Interesting. Alchemical path working. The use of guided visualizations in Kabbalah is referred to as path working and consists of a series of interrelated symbols given in connection with a particular story. Each story is nearly identical in context, in that it has a beginning, an obstacle, the resolution of the obstacle, a reward for overcoming the obstacle, and completion or return. The context changes from path working to reflect. It says that twice. The content changes from pathworking to reflect the various experiences one will encounter along the spiritual path. Alchemy has similar stories, both verbal and visual, in which the process of transmutation is detailed in the form of one or more interlocking stories. Short verses of poetry or prose may accompany each symbolic scene, as in Solomon Trismosin's Splendor Solis, or like in the Muddus Liber. There may be nothing except images. Regardless, the ability to imaginatively enter into a scene, bring it to life, and extract information psychically from it is crucial to the alchemical process. The following exercise will assist in developing a sense of the similarity between alchemical images and Kabbalistic pathworking, particularly those systems utilizing the images from the tarot trumps. It is important that the images be visualized in both the third person and first person. Look at the images and what they are doing, and then become the images and observe what you as the image or character are doing. I have some tarot decks that are like before tarot and after tarot, and some of them have actually like pictures on both sides even, where it shows the moment right before we actually see the classic tarot representation of the card, and then it shows the moment right after and what they're doing. It is expansive. It's mind-opening. Should I pull one out? Before tarot. So this one is the Fool, right before we see the Fool. Picking the flowers. Oh my gosh. Wow, the Magician looks almost the same, but there's like a monkey holding a coin. Oh wow, but he's got everything in his hand instead of the wand. So it's like he's holding different things. He's got a snake around his neck. Wow, okay, so the High Priestess before tarot, she has keys in her hand. There's a fire. The Torah looks like it's on. There's an owl on top of her head. Boaz and Jachin. The moon. Wow. Okay, so the Empress, she's got children in her lap the moment before the picture of tarot is taken. Hey, AF, do you want to see the after ones? I'll show you. Okay, make sure that these are still in order, because that drives me nuts when they're not. Okay, so that's the before deck, before tarot deck. Okay. Put my book over here. Before tarot, juicy. Okay, now after tarot, and then I got vice versa tarot too, so it shows on both sides different things going on. Before tarot, after tarot. Oh wow, the Two of Cups. Look at this. Is okay, so this is like the Two of Cups after they're actually embracing. I love that. Okay, so after tarot. Oh wow, look at, okay, so this is the Fool, a moment after the classic tarot that we see, hanging from the cliff and his stuff is falling. He's still smelling the flower, and then his guide, the dog, is right up top. Okay, so oh my gosh, the moment after, look, the Magician, it's like he's manifested these things to just like float around him, but he's actually got that the wand or the double-ended candle in his hand, as above so below. Oh, the dove. What's around his neck? Or no, okay, so the snake is still, not his neck, but the snake is still, okay. The High Priestess. Okay, so the water is flowing again on that moon. This looks so similar to just the regular one, but the keys, right? The pomegranates. The pillars. The Empress. Goslings. Whoa. Oh, and she's like holding up. What is she holding up? Some kind of bulbous structure. Wow, she's got such a kind face in this too. I don't know if you can tell. She looks like so happy. So satisfied. The Emperor holding a globe. Oh, wow. Big old goat. Ram. Wow. He still looks staunchy. Wow, okay. This is so cool. Oh, here's the lovers. She's offering the apple. Oh my gosh. Whoa. Okay, let's put these back. 3, 4, magician. I haven't looked at these in a while. Okay. And then should we check out the vice versa real quick too? These books will fall if I don't move them. Okay, so this is the vice versa tarot. So each side of the card has a really cool picture going on. So you see what's happening, and then you see what's happening from the back of them on this one. It's so cool. Okay, so here's the Fool, the front of the Fool. And then this is what it looks like behind the Fool. Shooting star. Wow. I love this one. I love this deck. Okay. So this is, oh man, this is gorgeous too with the shooting star. The Magician. And then this is what it looks like behind the Magician. Wow. The Tree of Life. The Tree of Life in his garment. The lilies. Okay. The High Priestess. Oh, look at the Sphinx in that one. This has got really good shadows. And then over here, oh, blue sky. The keys, gold and silver. Wow. So good. Okay, we'll do the Empress. She looks like a fairy. That big old green star. Two-headed bird. And then in the back. Ooh, the Hebrew symbol. The skull. The bird. The tree. That big tree. Wow. The roses. So cool. All right, one more. Which one should we do? Let's do the Chariot. Oh my gosh, the back of this card is so cool, you guys. Ah, look at what he's traveling on. Oh my gosh, it's like a cosmic path, right? And there's a rune on there as well. Oh, the Cancer on his cape. Dude, the caduceus. Oh man, it's so cool. Oh my gosh. Shoot. I know I just said one more, but oh, look at strength. Okay. And then look at that behind what's like what we don't see. That is something else. Wow. So good. I love all these cards. All right, let's put them back in their order. 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0. A 0. So yeah, what the last thing I just read in the Path of Alchemy made me think of the different times and what's shaken and all that. Okay, let me put these other books back. Okay, back to this book. So look at the images and what they are doing, and then become the images and observe what you as the image or character are doing about your dream, I think. But yeah. Oh wait, is this talking about? No, it is. It's talking about the tarot trumps. 111, it just said right up there. That's great. All right. The following exercise is taken from the images found in the Splendor Solis, Solis, an alchemical manuscript dating to at least the mid 16th century. The Splendor Solis is one of the most famous alchemical manuscripts because of its 22 beautiful color plates, which are fully reproduced in Art and Symbols of the Occult, Images of Power and Wisdom by James Wesserman. The Splendor Solis is or was a document much studied by some of the key figures in the early Hermetic order of the Golden Dawn. Reverend W.A. Aton's pupil, Julius Cole, was responsible for its first modern publication and translation in 1920, and S.L. MacGregor Mathers valued it highly enough to work on a translation reportedly published in 1907. Unfortunately, copies of Mather's limited edition have not surfaced. The most recent edition of the Splendor Solis was translated by Jocelyn Godwin, with commentary by Adam McLean, and published by Phanes Press, Phanes. However, its plates are in black and white. Copies of the color images can also be found on McLean's Alchemy website. Wow. It's okay. Yeah, I have a tarot of the Golden Dawn, but we don't need to. Okay. Okay, so exercise 1, prepare yourself for meditation. 2, imagine a glass egg or retort before you. Carefully build the image in detail. 3, imagine yourself passing through the glass and entering the egg. There, in the center of the egg, you hover above the dark waters, filling the lower third of the vessel. 4, imagine that you are a small, naked child, like the cherubim often portrayed in Renaissance art. You hold a pair of bellows and are pumping them. Before you is a yellow dragon, and your bellows are pointed at its chest. As you pump the bellows, the dragon goes from yellow to a bright red. 5. The red dragon now transforms into 3 birds, one red, one white, and one black. They are intertwined and are pecking at each other. Excuse me. 6. The heat increases, and the 3 birds become one body and 3 heads, colored white. Each head bears a golden crown. 7. Again the heat increases, and the bird is transformed into a yellow dragon with 3 heads, one white, one black, and one red. 8. The heat increases, transforming the dragon into a peacock with its tail in full bloom. 9. The peacock transforms into a queen in a white dress, breasts bare, a crown upon her head, and facing to her right. She holds a golden wand in her left hand and an orb in her right hand. The orb is before her belly, and she is surrounded by an aura of yellow edged with an equal amount of light blue. She stands upon a crescent moon, horns upturned, tail of the dragon. 10. For a final time, the heat increases, and the queen is transformed into a king in a red cape and robes. He wears a golden crown and holds an orb topped with a small, equal-armed cross, the symbol of terrestrial victory, also antimony. There's also lots of other meanings about the equidistant cross. It's like Thor, the building blocks of life. In his left hand and a golden wand in his right. Okay, so I'll start that sentence again. He wears a golden crown and holds an orb topped with a small, equal-armed cross in his left hand and a golden wand in his right. He stands upon an inverted crescent moon, horns turned down, the head of the dragon, and he is surrounded by a brilliant golden aura. 11. After a period of time, exit the egg. 12. Write down your experiences, the date and time of the meditation, and the lunar cycle. Whoa! Key points. Symbolism or symbols are the language of the subconscious. Tradition, okay, I got this. Traditional astrological and Kabbalistic tarot symbols can act as a bridge into alchemy. The major arcana of the tarot cards can be read in relation to alchemy. Regular meditation on symbols improves dream life and increases intuition. The symbolic languages of alchemy and dreams are identical, and this language is referred to as the language of the birds and the green language in traditional sources. Dream practices can increase dream regularity, memory, and lucidity, and can ultimately lead to astral projection. It is important to create your own dictionary of symbols for your dream interpretation. And lastly, the 4 keys to success in interpreting dreams are consistency in symbolic interpretation, regular dream practices, writing down dreams, and using planetary correspondences to link dreams from week to week rather than in a linear progression across 1 week. General assignments for Chapter 10. 1. Obtain a deck of tarot cards. The Oswald Worth deck is preferred. However, the Tarot of Marseille or the Rider-Waite deck will also do. Examine the cards in light of the brief alchemical notation given them in this chapter. Use only traditional decks for this exercise. Write, draw, or photocopy and paste these cards and the information in your notebook. 2. Obtain 1 or more of the books or courses mentioned in this chapter and begin the construction of your personal dictionary of symbols. 3. Pick a recent dream that you have experienced and, using the example in this chapter, write it down using bullet points to note the key ideas. Interpret the events in as few words as possible, and then synthesize the ideas into 1 or 2 sentences, or words if possible. Distill the meaning of the dreams, obtain their essence. And 4, begin recording your dreams in the manner outlined in this chapter. Meditation practices for Chapter 10. 1. Begin a nightly dream practice as outlined in this chapter. 2. Meditate with the various tarot cards and the alchemical descriptions given in this chapter, and notice your reaction to the ideas presented. Boom! All right, so that was the end of Chapter 10. So to the conclusion, take a big old sip of this delicious drink. The reader who has completed this book by now realizes that alchemy is a lifelong process. Even if the Philosopher's Stone is had in 22 years, as with Flamel, it is still a lifetime of investment that has gone into obtaining such illumination. Given the potential complexity of alchemical work, the procedures described here are sufficient to keep the aspiring alchemist busy for a year or more, simply working to feel comfortable with the process. It can then take several additional years to become fully competent with these procedures in practice. However, do not be discouraged by these statements. Remember, a little bit of work done regularly goes much farther than a lot of work performed in a short period of time. Alchemy cannot be rushed. This simple truth is easily demonstrated in the creation of spagyric medicines, as well as in their use. When taken regularly over a period of time, they have an accumulative effect. While the individual doses may wear off after a week or so, each time a medicine is ingested, the organs of spiritual perception are flexed a little more and, like physical muscles, grow stronger. Like any study worth undertaking, patience, confidence, faith, and grace are the tools needed. How can it be any less when we are talking of the great work? Yet in the end, it is ourselves we transmute. The plants and minerals are just our helpers along the way. The journey is also one that, while we may begin it with the most selfish of reasons and intentions, health, wealth, or power, becomes a selfless one in the end. The rough edges of our personality are slowly worn down. The very force that drives us towards success exhausts itself in the process, and we find ourselves at the doorstep of adepthood, caring more about others than our own final victory. This kind of journey was hinted at by Paracelsus when, in chapter 8 of his work, De Minerabilis, he predicted the return of Eliza Artista, or Elias Artista, or Elias the artist. Paracelsus referred to this futuristic hermetic adept in messianic terms. Quote, a symbol of the ripeness of the age. He is a great day to come. He is the great day to come when all secrets shall be brought to light, and things now rooting in the dark earth shall be brought to light, and things now rooting in the dark earth shall come forth to full growth and flower and bear a treasure, which is for the healing of nations, a symbolic representation, the collective breath of generous vindications, spirit of liberty, of science and love, which must regenerate the world, end quote. Yet regardless, no one can do the work for us. Like Paracelsus, Flamel, and others, Elias the artist can only be a teacher of the method. It is up to each of us to develop it and make it our own. In doing the work, we open ourselves up to the light within ourselves, and we are also able to recognize the light in others. It is this recognition that brings us to the domain of the adepts, not as a beggar, but as a mature and capable student, or an equal. May all who read this book and undertake the great work come to a good end. Fini. Cool. Alex Mack, welcome. Oh my gosh, welcome. Welcome in. Cool. Oh my gosh. Twinning on the birthdays. Oh my goodness. Happy early birthday. So cool. Cool. So, Appendix A, planetary hours. Planetary hours are a critical part of natural magic and alchemy. While there are systems of magic that do not take them into account, the majority of systems of occultism currently practice make some reference to them. There are, in fact, two systems for calculating planetary hours for each day. One system is fixed, with each day beginning at 6 a.m. and ending 24 hours later, but this system is rarely used. In the more common system, each day begins at sunrise and continues until sunrise of the following morning. This means that the length of each planetary hour in each day will change with the seasons and needs to be calculated every few days to take into accordance the change in the amount of sunlight each day possesses. Despite appearances, calculating planetary hours is simple, and an entire week can be calculated fairly quickly using one set of numbers. You may want to advance it 1 minute for each additional day. However, operations rarely start exactly on the time calculated for an hour. It is best to be prepared and wait a few minutes for the inner response that the time has begun. This can be as much as 10 minutes after the calculated time. Sunrise and sunset times are often listed in local newspapers. 1. Starting with Saturday, find the actual time of sunrise. Okay, so I'm going to shout this out again. The application DAF Moon. Is it DAF? DAF. Yeah, DAF Moon. I was right. DAF Moon is a great application because it tells you exactly when the sun will rise and set. It tells you all about the moon. Yeah, and oh my goodness. The whole new moon. When I travel, it's just crazy that that's the way that all worked out. When I'm actually, because I'm traveling for my birthday to California, is the day the new moon starts. A whole new phase. Holy majoli! It's destiny! The 20th. Okay, so DAF Moon, great app. I'm sure there's others. I really like that one. Okay, it shows you all the planets, right? So starting with Saturday, find the actual time of sunrise. 2. Find the actual time of sunset. 3. Find the time for sunrise on Sunday. These 3 times establish the length of a planetary hour. 1. Take the period from sunrise to sunset and calculate the number of minutes involved. 2. Divide this number by 12. This will give you the length in actual minutes of each planetary hour for the daytime period. 3. Subtract the daytime number of minutes from 1,440, the number of minutes in a 24-hour period, which is 9, of course. It's always one of those magic numbers, 369, to derive the length of the evening period. 4. Divide this number by 12. This will give you the length in actual minutes of the planetary hours for the night. 5. Based on the actual time of sunrise, graph your hours and the times they occur. Repeat this for the nighttime hours. Example: if sunrise on Saturday is at 5:28 a.m. and sunset is at 6:30 p.m., we have 772 minutes of sunlight. This gives us 12 hours of slightly under 65 minutes each. So our first hour begins at 5:28 a.m. and ends at 6:33 a.m. Our second hour begins at 6:33 a.m. and ends at 7:38 a.m., and so on until all 12 planetary hours of the day are calculated, with sunset at 6:30 p.m., and using the same sunrise for Sunday as on Saturday. We have 668 minutes of nighttime. We divide 668 by 12 for the hours of the night and get slightly over 55 minutes in a planetary hour, and this we round up to 56 minutes. Our first hour of the night begins at 6:30 p.m. and ends at 7:26 p.m. Our second hour begins at 7:26 p.m. and ends at 8:22 p.m., and so on. The order of the planets begins on Saturday and follows the tree of life, giving us Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Sun, Venus, Mercury, Moon for the first 7 hours, and then simply repeating the cycle across every hour of every day of the week. So Jupiter, Mars, Sun, Venus, Mercury, Moon. This has the unique result of the first hour of each day corresponding to its rulership. As such, the first hour of each day will always be Saturn for Saturday, Sun for Sunday, Moon for Moon Day, happy Moon Day, Mars for Tuesday, Mercury for Wednesday, Jupiter for Thursday, and Venus for Friday. Cool. I was born on a Friday, and I'm ruled by Venus. For the first hour of every night will always be Mercury for Saturday, Jupiter for Sunday, Venus for Monday, Saturn for Tuesday, Sunday for Wednesday, or the sun for Wednesday, and the moon for Thursday, and Mars for Friday. Study the charts that follow and practice calculating planetary hours until you can be sure that your calculations match the flow of the planets outlined. Calculating exact planetary hours. The reason there is a delay between the calculated beginning of the planetary hour and the actual beginning of an operation is to allow for the natural rotation of the Earth and its reception of planetary energies to catch up with the artificial timelines established. If you want to calculate the actual beginning of a planetary hour in coordination with local time, you need to know the longitude of the location you are calculating for. 4 minutes is deducted from Greenwich Mean Time. I think that's how you say it, Greenwich, Greenwich, or Greenwich Mean Time. For each degree, the location is west of Greenwich, and 4 minutes added for each minute east of Greenwich. This will allow you to calculate an exact beginning and end to planetary hours. Table 1. The table on the next page shows the planetary hours for one day. The day is Friday because the first hour of the day is Venus. The first hour lasts from 6:12 a.m. until 7:23 a.m. and is 71 minutes long. The hour that follows, a Mercury hour, starts at 7:23 and continues until 8:33 a.m., and so forth. If we examine the exact point at which the daylight hours have reached their halfway point, we find true midday or noon, which for this day falls on a solar hour. True midnight, or true midnight, 2 words, falls at the halfway point of the nighttime hours. which are shorter, and comes during a Jupiter hour. For the majority of work done in spagyrics, alchemy, talismans, and various forms of planetary magic, this simple breakdown of the planetary hours across the day is all that is needed. However, those seeking a more advanced use of the hours can use an extended breakout. Cool. Excuse me. The detailed version. Each day and hour is ruled by the passing of the elements as well as the planets. The daylight hours are ruled by the active energies of fire and air, while the nighttime energies are ruled by the passive energies of water and earth. Each element rules 6 hours of planetary time. In addition, each hour can be further broken down into discrete segments of elemental influences and synthesized by the energies of spirit. These elements are symbolized in the following chart by the Hebrew letters He, H-E-H, which is earth, Va, V-A-U, which is water, He, H-E-H again, air, Yod, Y-O-D, fire, and Shin, S-H-I-N, which is spirit, which are read from left to right to match the progression of the hour from start to finish. From this information, it is possible to create a tincture, in this case, a Venus tincture, that is biased toward an element by changing the period of the day or night it is started under, as well as adding in some additional planetary influences if the hour is moved from a Venus hour to one support of the function of the tincture. For example, a tincture oriented toward magic, but with the intention of being very psychic in nature, could be started during the water phase of the day and under a lunar influence. This hour starts at 23:36 or 11:36 p.m. If additional secondary effects are desired, such as material or earth, emotional water, intellectual air, spiritual fire, or harmonizing spirit, the appropriate time within the hour to begin the operation can be discovered as well. Using these smaller units of time across the hour can be tricky. However, it is worthwhile to use them several times to gain the experience. In general, using the dominant elemental influence of the phase in which one works during the daytime or nighttime hours is sufficient modification to the work at hand. I'm just going to show you these charts to reference. I love it. All right, Appendix B, the longevity formula of Comte de Saint-Germain. The following formula has been circulating in modern Rosicrucian circles for decades and is attributed to the famous 18th century alchemist and purported Rosicrucian and Freemason Comte de Saint-Germain. This recipe has been given to the author by several alchemists, each confirming the source and means of its transmission back to 18th century Holland. A nearly identical recipe is cited on page 270 in Comte de Saint-Germain, last scion of the House of Rakoczy, by Jean Overton Fuller. The difference being a possible confusion between anise and fennel, as both herbs smell very similar. Fuller mentions preparing the tea in red wine by so Fuller is the name. Fuller mentions preparing the tea in red wine by letting it soak for several hours and then straining it. It can also be placed on a very low heat. An easier method is to make a weak tea using distilled water and, again, strain the mixture prior to ingesting. The taste is soft and pleasant. Honey can be added for flavor, but is not needed. A careful examination of the recipe shows that the tea is designed to remove mucus, improve digestion, and stimulate regularity of the bowels. Senna, 2 grams, elderflower, 4 grams, anise, 1 gram, manna, 15 grams. And it says manna is Fraxinus ornus and is often imported from Sicily. Wow. I'll flash it up so you can see the recipe. Appendix C, The Path of Nicholas Flamel and the Philosopher's Stone. The appendix overview is the Book of Abraham the Jew. The great work is completed, and a modern experience on the Flamel path. Nicholas Flamel, also spelled with 2 M's, not just one. Normally we see it with just the one. So Nicholas Flamel was born at Pontoise, France, Pontoise, in 1330. Ooh, 1330. That's my area code. That's cool. Little is known of his life prior to his undertaking the study of alchemy. However, as a result of his subsequent fame, the Bibliothèque Nationale in Paris, did I say that? Bibliothèque Nationale in Paris contains copies of works made by him, as well as his own writings, in addition to his marriage certificate, deeds for gifts made while alive, and his last will and testament. Flamel made his living as a scrivener, 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 notary, and bookseller, with a stall that backed into the columns of Saint Jacques La Boucherie. Frère Jacques. Okay, wait. Scrivener. What's a scrivener? Let's find out. Greenwich. Yeah, Greenwich. Thank you, Alex Mack. Okay, so scrivener. Is that someone who... Scrivener definition. Professional or public copyist or writer, a scribe. Yeah, okay. I thought it was someone who writes books or copies the books. Cool. It's cool. Okay. Where is... Okay, so Flamel made his living as a scrivener, notary, and bookseller with a stall that backed onto the columns of Saint Jacques La Boucherie and measured little more than 2.5 feet by 2 feet, or slightly larger than a telephone booth. Wow. He was also skilled in painting and poetry. As literacy was limited, even among the commercial and ruling classes, it was possible to make a modest living by reading and writing letters or documents for a fee, or by teaching writing to those who were required to sign documents. Flamel later purchased a house, possibly with the assistance of his wealthy wife, a widow several years his senior, and used the ground floor for business. Several employees were retained, and business was good. It is known that he was born, like many, into poverty, but was fortunate enough to have parents who instilled in him the virtues of honesty and ethics. He was able to acquire an education, and as such he moved to Paris, where he made his living. Like many in his occupation, he lived on the street of the Notaries, near the chapel of St. James of the Boucherie, Bouchery. Flamel's fortunes changed in 1357, when, according to his own account, he purchased a large, heavily gilded book for 2 florins. The book's cover was made of brass or copper and engraved with various symbols and letters. The pages were made of very thin leaves of bark, each being covered with beautifully drawn and colored symbols and text. Every 7th page was free from any writing, holding only a picture. The first image was a serpent swallowing rods. The second, a serpent crucified on a cross. And the third, a vast desert with a bubbling fountain surrounded by serpents. The book appeared to have been written for the expert, at least in Kabbalah, and assumed a knowledge of alchemy and possibly even success in the art. On the title page, the following was written in gold: Abraham the Jew, prince, priest, Levite, astrologer, and philosopher, to the nation of the Jews, by the wrath of God dispersed among the Gentiles, sendeth health. Whoa! The book was unlike anything being produced in Europe at that time or previously, and suggests Middle Eastern origins. According to the text, Abraham the Jew, its author, undertook the process of creating gold through transmutation to relieve the Jews of the burden imposed upon them by excessive taxation while in European lands ruled by Christian monarchs, who not only oppressed the Jews, but also used such taxes collected to finance Christian churches and institutions. To help his fellow Jews deal with the burden placed upon them while in the diaspora, the author gave the method of transmutation to his people. The word Maranatha, the word Maranatha was repeated many times on the pages, adding to the allure of the book. Maranatha, believed to be a curse or malediction, equivalent to referring to the person as excrement, in its Aramaic original is actually a blessing. Maranatha is composed of 2 words, Maran and Atha, which means the Lord has come, or O Lord, come. This misuse of the word in the text suggests either a non-Jewish origin of Abraham the Jew's book, or later Christian interpolation. Despite this flaw, authentic Hebrew sentiments are stated elsewhere in the text. However, that makes this book so special, so unique to Flamel, what makes this book so special, so unique to Flamel, is that he was waiting for it to arrive. In his book, Lives of the Alchemistical Philosophers, Arthur Edward Waite recounts a story regarding a vision Flamel had prior to acquiring the book that led to his success. The angel named Bath Cole appeared to Flamel, holding a book similar to the one he would later purchase, engraved with an iron pen, and said, "Flamel, behold this book, of which thou understandest nothing. To many others but thyself it would remain forever unintelligible, but one day thou shalt discern in its pages that none but thyself shall see." Whoa. In Flamel's dream, he reached for the book, only to find that it and the angel disappeared in a radiant flash of light. While dreams such as this appear throughout the Hermetic tradition and are familiar to students of Kabbalah, Rosicrucianism, and alchemy, in this case, we know the book Flamel would later find, and it exists to this day. For 21 years, Flamel studied the book, even painting its images on the walls of his home. Flamel was no doubt familiar with alchemy, as books on it abound, and he possessed manuscripts on it himself, but the images in this book were a mystery to him. What he lacked was knowledge of Jewish mysticism. Christian scholars were unable to help Flamel decipher the book's meaning, so he sought out a rabbi who could help him. Unfortunately for Flamel, the Jews had been driven out of France by brutal and systematic persecution. Massacres, imprisonment, expulsions, confiscation of property, and heavy fines were common. Since the chief rabbis were in Spain, it is there that Flamel went. He met a sage and was rewarded with success within 3 years after his return to Paris. Many Jews had emigrated to Spain, settling in Granada and Malaga, where Moorish rulers, Moor, where Moorish rulers were more tolerant than their Catholic neighbors to the north. In these areas, Jewish communities flourished, producing learned scholars, physicians, and Kabbalists, traveling under the cloak of a pilgrim with staff, shell, and hat, and carrying a few carefully copied pages of the book hidden on his person. Flamel headed towards Galatia, like galactic, Galacia, Galatia. At the time of his journey, he would be nearly 50 years of age. His welcome was not a warm one, as Jews made to leave their native France would hardly be inviting to a Christian poking around in their new homeland. Discouragement seemed to overtake Flamel. On his return journey through Lyon, he stopped at an inn and had the good fortune to share the evening's table with a merchant, also French, who was from Boulogne, Boulogne. After a discussion of their reasons for traveling, the merchant on business, Flamel seeking a wise Jew, the merchant informed him of an associate of his who could help him, an old scholar and Kabbalist known as Master Conches, Canches. The merchant offered to introduce Flamel to him. Master Conches was impressed with the few pages Flamel had brought and decided, despite his age, to travel with him to Paris. Conveniently, he was also a convert to Catholicism. This may have been a genuine conversion or simply one of convenience and an insurance policy against further troubles. Conch's health faded over the course of the journey, and after 7 days of vomiting and delirium, he died in Orleans. Flamel arranged for him to be buried in the church of St. Croix, with accompanying masses. Flamel had learned enough from Master Conches so that upon his return home, he was able to return to his work and studied with the confidence that he would be able to decipher the remaining pages. After 3 more years of work, he and Paranel were crowned with success. On Monday, January 17th, 1382, at noon, according to Flamel, he succeeded in making a projection on Mercury into silver. The following April 25th, at 5 p.m., he converted Mercury into gold. Only 2 additional accounts are known of the projection powder being used to make gold. Each time, the proceeds were used for charitable purposes. The lifestyle of Nicholas and Paranel did not change after their alchemical success blessed them. After the stone is made, Paranel assisted in the experiments, and since they had no children, they donated their wealth, endowing churches and hospitals and restoring cemeteries, as was the custom of the day. In Flamel's own words, quote, "Before I wrote this commentary, which was toward the end of the year 1314, after the passing of my faithful companion, whom I shall lament all the days of my life, she and I already founded and endowed 14 hospitals, had built 3 chapels, and provided 7 churches with substantial gifts and revenues, as well as restoring their cemeteries." End quote. Louis Figuier, 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 a historian, wrote, quote, "Husband and wife lavished succor, is how you say that's succor, on the poor. Succor. I've looked this up before. Let's do it again. Succor. Assistance and support in times of hardship and distress. Susor, maybe. Succor. Okay, succor. Succor. Oh shoot, I didn't take note of where I am. Down here, maybe. Husband and wife lavished succor on the poor, founded hospitals. Whoa. Decline. on the poor, founded hospitals, built or repaired cemeteries, restored the front of Saint Genevieve de Ardennes, and endowed the institution of the Vince of the Quince Vince, Quinze-Vingts, the blind inmates of which, in memory of this fact, came every year to the church of Saint Jacques la Boucherie to pray for their benefactor, and a practice which continued until 1789. Wow. The couple's generosity aroused suspicion and attracted attention. A bookseller who had endowed so many social and religious institutions and undertaken public works to ease the suffering of the poor must have a secret indeed, and Charles VI ordered an investigation into the matter. Fortunately for Nicholas and Perenelle, the results of the investigation were favorable toward them. Lucas and the survival of Nicholas and Perenelle. Under the commission from Louis XIV, Sieur Paul Lucas, which is Sieur, Sieur Paul Lucas, 1664 to 1737, traveled in search of antiquities, visiting Macedonia, Greece, Turkey, Asia Minor, and Africa. On his return, he, like all good travelers of the day, published a memoir of his journey titled Voyage de Sieur Paul Lucas par ordre du Roi dans la Crise, etc. Amsterdam, 1712. The book was dedicated to his sponsor, Louis XIV. Given Louis's temperament, it is suggested that Lucas took great risks in losing the king's support if it was thought that his accounts were in any way exaggerated for public consumption or royal gullibility. In summary, Lucas states that while traveling in Natalia, he came across a small mosque in the city of Brusa, Turkey, with 4 dervishes inside. Lucas states that his guests received him with extreme hospitality and, in the custom of the day, invited him to share their meal with them. One of the dervishes was said to be from Uzbek, modern Uzbekistan, and was extremely well educated. Lucas says, quote, "And I believe verily that he spoke all the languages in the world," end quote. Their conversation began in Turkish but changed to Italian and then again to French. It was apparent that the dervish spoke at least Latin, Spanish, and Italian in addition to Turkish and French. Lucas states that his host's French was distinctly Parisian. Despite an outer appearance of about 30 years of age, the dervish confided to Lucas that he had retired to this location for study and meditation. He shared accounts of his own travels, giving the impression of being much older. In addition, he stated that he was one of 7 wandering scholars who traveled the world seeking to perfect their studies and themselves. Upon parting, they promised to meet again in 20 years' time, and it was upon this meeting that Lucas had stumbled. 4 of the 7 friends were present, and the other 3 were expected to arrive soon. The other 3 were expected to arrive soon. Many topics were covered in Lucas's conversation with the dervish, with philosophy, science, metaphysics, and esotericism dominating. The dervish explained to Lucas that the dervish was a philosopher, a person who has no bonds to the material world and yet has all power within his grasp because of his renunciation. He could live 1,000 years if he so desired. With this, the philosopher's stone was discussed and Flamel mentioned. The dervish informed Lucas that Flamel was indeed alive and that he had seen Nicholas and Perenelle only 3 years earlier in India. Lucas states that the dervish told him an unknown story of Abraham the Jew, the purported author of the book with which Flamel had discovered the keys to confecting the philosopher's stone. He said that 300 years prior, an elderly member of their fraternity sought to visit his family in Paris once more before leaving for mystical retirement from the world. His friends sought to discourage him from making the journey, as it was long and dangerous. Upon reaching Paris, The elderly Jew found his family and even produced a demonstration of a transmutation to convince them that he had the secret. One family member sought to keep the elder sage from returning to his mystic brethren and murdered him when he could not. For this, his punishment was to be burned alive. It was Flamel who later possessed the book written by the sage. In order to avoid a similar fate, or perhaps simply to escape from unwanted publicity, he arranged to fake his death, with Perenelle following suit. This is so juicy. The tomb. Flamel is said to have died at the age of 116 after a period of illness. However, other records state that he was 80. Perenelle went first, and Nicholas followed later that year. He left details on how he was to be buried at Saint-Jacques-la-Boucherie, at the end of the nave. The tombstone was large, measuring 58 by 45 centimeters and 4 centimeters thick. It was designed to discourage grave robbers. In this task, it failed. Even the monthly masses arranged did not keep vandals away. His tomb was vandalized, and when it was opened by robbers, it was found empty. Saint-Jacques-la-Boucherie was demolished in 1717. Flamel's headstone was later found in a grocer's shop in Rue des Arias, where its smooth marble back was used for chopping herbs and vegetables. Only when it was turned over was it discovered to be the headstone of the adept. The engravings on the stone were of a key with a sun above it and a closed book below it. And on the very top were engravings of Christ, St. Peter, and St. Paul, the symbols of his life. His successors. With no children, the Flamel estate went to a nephew named Perrier, who had some interest in alchemy and presumably benefited from being such a close relative to the 14th century's greatest living alchemist. Giving access to Nicholas's papers and the prized book by Abraham the Jew, Flamel's bequest to Perrier was worth more than its weight in gold, if the process actually worked. During the reign of Louis XIII, a descendant of Flamel, Dubois, seems to have taken to the bad habit of public demonstrations of transmutation, a practice made worse by the fact that it seems it was a supply of the powder that Dubois possessed, and not the knowledge to replenish it. When his store was used up, he found himself imprisoned in Vincennes. Richelieu had him condemned to death on account of past offenses and confiscated his property, with it the book of Abraham the Jew, annotated in Flamel's own hand. Richelieu had a laboratory at Chateau du Ruel, R-U-E-I-L, but seems to have had little success in deciphering the book's text or images. It was during this period that Nicholas's tomb was broken into and was said to have been found empty. The properties attached to the Flamels were ransacked at various times by people seeking the projection powder. Apparently, copies of the book were made, or at least the images, and these would surface from time to time, with the copy in the Paris Bibliothèque Nationale. Miss Francais 14765 being the most complete. Wow. Modern schools of Flamel. Oh, Starling. It's just my phone. It is not surprising that several modern schools of alchemy and alchemical research undertake the Path of Flamel as the operative practice in their search for the Philosopher's Stone. One of the more peculiar aspects of the Flamel path, or even mineral alchemy in general, is the tremendous amount of energy that it generates. The following statements were made regarding the Flamel path during part of the operation known as Flying Eagles, in which mercury is distilled into increasing levels of purity and, as such, power. The operation took place in the fall of 1993. The author states, quote, "At that time, I had an experience which was both physical and subtle, which convinced me that the distillation of amalgams can create a force field of significant proportions. Further, I was satisfied by certain facts of the experiment that there was no self-delusion nor expectation of an experience on my part, and that the force field induces chemical changes within the operator. Quote, "The secret of alchemy is this: there is a way of manipulating matter and energy so as to create a force field. The vital thing is not the transmutation of metals, but of the experimenter himself," end quote. And continuing on what he still said. A friend of mine has had similar experiences in work on the vegetable kingdom. It is my hope that sharing the experience will encourage others to discuss the circumstances of change in themselves that have come from their work, end quote. Flamel, fact in fiction. Although it seems that Nicholas Flamel's life and legendary pilgrimage is well documented, several clues throughout history and within its own accounts lead one to wonder if the factual account of Flamel's legend withstands the critics of those in the know of the gay science. Indeed, the most famous alchemical author of all time, who is even cited in contemporary children's books and movies, has a very unusual name. Nicholas is derived from the Greek word meaning conqueror of the stone, and Flamel is, of course, the juxtaposition of flame, and El giving us the conqueror stone of the holy flame, or conqueror of the holy fire stone. The most famous copy of the manuscript of Abraham, or a Brahmin, a Brahmin, oh my goodness, okay. The Jew, presently kept in the Bibliothèque Nationale de Paris, was written by a Chevalier Denis Molinier. We are at first stunned by the word chevalier, Chevalier, which was not a title of nobility in the 17th century, when he allegedly wrote this copy from a former manuscript or the original itself. In reality, chevalier is literally translated as knight in English with a K, K-N-I-G-H-T, in English, meaning a soldier on a horse. This is very similar to Kabbalist or Kabbalist in the ancient usages. They're just spelled two different ways when I said that. Here we must note that by tradition, because of the Holy Inquisition, and also as a means to repel the unworthy, alchemists and Kabbalists of the past were very familiar with puns and plays on words, as well as borrowing from dead languages. All the educated gentry of old Europe was busy creating such anagrams, using ciphers as simple intellectual challenges. We must look at the name of Chevalier Denis Molinier from this same state of mind, and the following work must be done in the original language. Here in French we have Chevalier Denis Molinier, and then Cavalier Sign de Minier, Cabal de Minier, in Greek, BV, La Cabal est la miniere del lore, translated in English, Kabbalah is the source of gold. So you guys can get your eyeballs on all that stuff I just butchered. Kabbalah is the source of gold. Also, Molinier can be separated into the mol, soft or putty-like, and inier, which sounds like igneous. In the laboratory, these are the qualities of the philosopher's stone, a soft, fiery substance, as well as a knowledge of all Western esoteric sciences. Indeed, in the old days, one was not so much an alchemist or a Kabbalist as a person pursuing alchemy, Kabbalah, and astrology is a triptych of a unified art and science of Hermeticism. What about another famous author, such as Basilius Valentine, which Latin translation gives us powerful king? King can also be understood as regulus, the first step in the preparation of the stibnite with iron, which gives the preparatory stage of the stone its magnetic life. Does this mean that the ancients knew more than they said? But let's go back to our story, the legendary Flamel and his pilgrimage to Saint Jacques de Compostela or Compostela to find the meaning of the book. In those days, many people undertook this journey. A modern equivalent would be the pilgrimage to Mecca at any good Muslim that any good Muslim is supposed to undertake during his lifetime. Some went on foot, richer ones on horseback. Coming from all over Europe, one of their gathering points was Paris, where Nicholas allegedly started his journey. Little is known of this first leg of his trip by land, except that he reaches Montjoie, or Mount of Joy. But much more is known of the return by sea. And so that was actually Montjoye. This is because the dry way by land is repeatedly much faster than the wet way by sea. Once in Compostela, or Field of the Star, Nicholas embarks on a ship where he meets a merchant from I said it once earlier, Boulogne, Boulogne, a French seaport. We leave to your sagacity to decipher the Boulogne part, but we would like to point out that this man is a merchant. Why? Because the god Mercury was reputed to be the patron saint of merchants, as well as of the thieves, but that's a whole different story. In confidence, the merchant introduces Flamel to a reputed wise man, Master Conches, the white, the sulfur, who lives in Lyon, anagram of Noel or Christmas, a subtle hint at Tifereth, or the sun. The Christ state of consciousness, which is the state an adept acquires, once in possession of the philosopher's stone, and who travels with Nicholas back to Paris and during the journey deciphers for him the meaning behind the illustrations of the book. On the way to the city of Orleans, anagram of Loresan, or gold is in New Orleans, Master Conches starts vomiting profusely and dies 7 days into his illness, terrified that Flamel would leave him. Indeed, the sulfur will give its soul to the mercury, and after 7 philosophical days is conjoined so intimately with the mercury that the whole becomes a perfect union. Dude, this is so interesting. His whole life story is okay. The first time that Nicholas Flamel does the projection is in the company of his soulmate, Perennial, or Perennial, on Monday, January 17th, 1382, when he transmutes 1/2 pound of mercury into pure silver. As it turns out, a simple calculation shows that this specific date was a Friday. When we know that the days of the weeks are linked to different metals and planetary influences, we wonder what Flamel transmuted on that day. Furthermore, the second transmutation occurred on April 25th of the same year, which would have been a Friday once again. Since Friday is linked to Venus and copper, we have to take into consideration that it is mentioned that the cover of the book of Abraham the Jew was made of finely delineated copper. Whoever heard of such a cover for a book? As a student who has practiced for a long time at the furnace, we must add here that the book, available in English thanks to the translation made by one of our friends, is the most candid explanation of what is known as the Flamel path, one of the ways to the stone. Unfortunately, it still requires a good 20 years of one's life full time, as well as a good deal of money, to reach the aim of this path, perhaps not very compatible with our modern lifestyle. Peter Ace Zellum. So key points. Nicholas and Perennial Flamel were real people who lived in the 14th century. Nicholas Flamel had a dream in which he would receive a book. The messenger took the form of an angel. Nicholas studied for 21 years before traveling to Spain to find a rabbi who could instruct him in Kabbalah so he could decipher the manuscript. Upon receiving instruction, Flamel returned to Paris, where within 3 years he and Perronel created the Philosopher's Stone and transmuted mercury in silver, and later into gold. Legends of the Flamel's survival abound in common and esoteric literature. Many people have taken an interest in Flamel as they seek the Philosopher's Stone for personal and selfish reasons. And lastly, modern practitioners of the Flamel path state that mineral alchemy produces a force field that produces chemical and psychic changes in the operator. General assignments for Appendix C. 1. Read about 14th century France and Spain. Collect images of Paris, Lyon, and other major cities, or Lyon. Allow them to sink into you and stimulate your imagination. 2. Begin reading a book on Kabbalah, such as Dion Fortune's The Mystical Kabbalah, or Gareth Knight's A Practical Guide to Kabbalah Symbolism, or to Kabbalistic Symbolism. Have a special notebook for when you read, dividing it into sections for history, theory, and philosophy, practical exercises, and any results of meditations you may have done, just as you have done for your alchemical studies. Meditation practices for Appendix C. 1. Read the story of Nicholas Flamel, imagining that you are Flamel. Go through each step, starting with the angelic dream and ending with your own transition. Use the alternate ending as well, meeting the dervish in India and continuing to live until at least the 18th century. Carefully note your experiences in response to this form of alchemical pathworking. 2. Meditate on what it would be like to undertake the Flamel path or similar mineral work. Imagine yourself before a furnace, the heat intense, and feel the ensuing psychic force field that it creates. What is it like? How does it affect you? 3. Meditate on the nature of the furnace, its heat, and the idea of fire or energy in transmutation. What is it like? Where is the furnace in you? How has studying alchemy changed your life? 4. Repeat your earlier meditations on the Philosopher's Stone. What's it like? What does it impart? Spend much time on these meditations. I have to pee pretty good, but I really want to read the glossary. How long is it? I think I can make it. Glossary. The exact meaning of specialized terms used in alchemy is always a tricky business. Many words are used in several different manners, such as salt and mercury, thereby adding to the confusion. The following definitions are given to assist aspiring alchemists to developing their own lexicons. When looking for the meaning of a specific alchemical term, always look to the source it is derived from and the context it is used in first, as this will help you to decipher the inner and outer meaning of the term. Difficult to pronounce words in Arabic, Greek, Hebrew, and Latin are followed by a pronunciation guide in italics. Alchemy. The art and science of interior initiation and spiritual awakening that uses material operations to aid in the work, as well as to demonstrate the actual efficiency of the process through the creation of plant and mineral products and tinctures. The most famous of these are the Philosopher's Stone and the Elixir of Life. Angel water. The liquefied potassium carbonate used in the creation of an ENS angel water is created only during the spring months, when the ambient life force is increasing. Angel water is caustic and should be handled carefully. Calcination. Reducing plant residue to a fine ash after it has been used in the creation of a tincture. Caput mortem. Literally, deadhead. And then it says, see feces. Chaos, the primordial essence from which everything arises, says see Heil. Circulation, creating a tincture by percolating it. The herb is placed in a container that allows for the menstruum to evaporate and drip back onto the herb. A low heat is often used. Correspondences, the relationship between energy, matter, and consciousness in the visible and invisible realms through analogy. Distillation, purifying a solid or liquid through heat and evaporation. Distillation allows the alchemist to remove minerals from water, thereby creating distilled water. to separate alcohol from red wine, thereby producing a menstruum for creating tinctures, and to separate it's on two lines. The constituent parts of a tincture, sulfur and mercury, for the further refinement of the tincture. Distillation is the primary tool of the alchemist. Elements. There are four basic elements, or expressions of energy and matter in alchemy: fire, air, water, earth, and the manipulation of these elements is part of the alchemical process. The three essentials represent a specific relationship between them, and together they represent two means of expressing the underlying harmony that alchemy seeks to express. Elixir, a tincture that is refined, sometimes known as a magisterium. It can also be a tincture composed of more than one plant. Elixirs use the parts of a plant that have medicinal value. Ens, Latin, a special tincture produced with angel water and generally made for initiatic purposes. Feces, residue after certain alchemical operations. This can refer to the plant matter prior to its calcination that remains after the creation of a tincture, or to oils that are separated from distilled products. Fermentation, soaking a plant in fresh rain or distilled water at room temperature to create a tincture. Greater circulation, a phrase sometimes applied to working with minerals, as well as the spiritual or interior aspects of alchemy. Great work, the entire work from beginning to end, learning the secrets of transmutation in all three kingdoms of the purpose of self-perfection. Hermes, a Greek god who was associated with the Egyptian god Thoth, thereby combining the two into Thoth Hermes, and later simply assuming the deities of Thoth completely. Hermes is the patron deity of Hermeticism, of which alchemy is one of the chief operative arts and sciences. Hyle, the primordial essence from which everything arises, says Chaos. Kingdoms, the three main areas of life in alchemical practice. These are the plant, mineral, and animal kingdoms. Leaching, a process in which plant salts are soaked in distilled water in order to draw out any water-soluble salts that were not separated during the creation of a tincture. Lesser circulation, a phrase sometimes applied to spagyrics in preparation for mineral work, or simply in reference to the physical methods of alchemy. Maceration, creating a tincture by placing the fresh or dried herb in alcohol. Magisterium, Latin, a tincture that has been highly refined through repeated maceration and distillation, sometimes known as an elixir. Menstruum, a liquid used in the creation of a spagyric or alchemical product, usually pure alcohol or distilled water. Mercury, one of the three essentials, the carrier of life force in a particular kingdom. In the plant kingdom, alcohol is the carrier of life energy. In the mineral kingdom, it is metallic mercury, and in the animal kingdom, it is blood. Natural magic, occult operations that utilize energies of nature found in matter in connection with planetary cycles. Niter, the energies of life and consciousness that come from chaos or Hyle. Combined with salt, they give rise to the four elements and the three essentials. Planetary hours, a cyclic expression of the influences of the planetary energies across the week, as well as their variation each day. Charting of planetary hours starts on Saturday and follows the descent of the energies on the Tree of Life. Because of their regularity, planetary hours are used extensively in spagyrics, alchemy, and natural magic. Plant stone, an actual physical object created out of the separation and recombination of the salt, mercury, and sulfur of a plant. These stones are often small and hard like a pebble, but they may also be soft like licorice. A hard stone is often used to create a homeopathic-like tincture in water and should not degrade over time despite constant immersion. Quintessence, the pure and essential life energy in a plant, mineral, animal, or kingdom, brought to fruition and expression through alchemical practices. The elements in balance or in perfect proportion to each other is also known as the quintessence. Redstone, the philosopher's stone, also known as the stone of the wise, the goal of alchemy. The red stone is a physical expression of an interior initiation in the alchemist's own consciousness. The red stone gives outer confirmation that such a state has been achieved and that the alchemist is not deluding himself or herself. Him or herself. In Kabbalah, this would be a permanent initiation into Tifereth, or the sun, also known as the red lion. Salt. The basis of physical life, the material matrix of any physical object, be it plant, mineral, or animal. Salt contains powerful mineral energies that are refined and essential in the creation of spagyric and mineral products. Salt on the cosmic scale is the basis of all matter and, combined with niter, gives rise to the four elements and the three essentials, one of which bears its name. Solve et coagula. Separate and recombine, the basis of all alchemical operations. Through the process of separation, energies of a person, plant, or mineral become more subtle and potent. Through recombination, the physical body or form is able to absorb and utilize more energy. Spagyrics, Greek. A subspecialty of alchemy that produces tinctures, stones, and other products from plants. The term spagyrics was coined by Paracelsus and comes from the Greek equivalent of solve et coagula. The procedures utilized in spagyrics are identical to those used in mineral alchemy, and therefore many students learn the basic procedures by working with plants before moving on to the more technically demanding mineral work. Sulfur, the individualized essence of a plant, mineral, or animal, one of the three essentials. The plant, in its composed in plants, it is composed primarily of essential oils. In minerals, it is referred to as an oil, and in animals, it is consciousness or the soul. Groot. Thoth, the Egyptian god of wisdom, associated with the Greek god Hermes and the Roman god Mercury. Thoth was the supreme god of magic in ancient Egypt and the patron deity of alchemy. Three essentials. Everything is made of three parts or essentials. These are its salt, mercury, and sulfur. The separating and recombining of the three essentials is the basis for all spagyric and alchemical procedures. Tincture, the product resulting from the immersion of a fresh or dried plant into a menstruum to remove the sulfur from the salt. Tinctures are generally made with alcohol that is 90% to 95% pure and a single plant or herb. Tinctures can be made from resins, bark, roots, leaves, stems, or any other part of a plant or plant byproduct. Spagyric tinctures are unique in that, unlike herbal tinctures, the plant matter from which they are created is calcined and added to the product. White stone. A significant step in mineral alchemy is the creation of the white stone, identical to the red stone, only less powerful. The white stone demonstrates mastery over the lunar or astral worlds. Dude. And that was that. We did it. Woo! 22322. Cool. Dang. Thank you so much, Mark Stavish, and to all those that came before. What an awesome book. I recommend everyone get it, right? Dang. Thanks for doing it to it with me, everyone. We finished the book. Even though that one's gonna, I'm glad that I still have it to reference on a regular basis, right? So thank you so much to YouTube and StreamYard, to everyone here. I appreciate yous. I appreciate you so much. I'm really thankful that we get to do this. And thank you to my mom and my dad and my sister and to my friends and the rest of my family. And thank you so much, Spirit. Thank you, God. Yeah, so grateful. So grateful. I love yous. And I might go live. Oh, it's 6:39 right now. Oh my gosh. Woo! 6:39. Okay, so I'm not sure. I might have to go live with another Dolores Cannon chapter tonight, but we'll just do it like we feel it. So y'all take care of yourself. Mwah. I'll see you so soon. Thank you.